Caroline, Caroline, rolling down the river just one more time.
Welcome to East Coast DNA. This is
Darcy.
And I'm Andrew. We're brothers from Nova Scotia. And this podcast is covering East Coast musicians, originally starting to be the re-emergence of live music since COVID started. Now, since COVID restrictions were lifting, I guess.
Yes.
And it's wide open. It's wide open.
Yeah.
Last week we had a super episode with nominees for Rock Performance of the Year. Correct? That's what it was.
Recording.
Rock Recording of the Year.
Same difference at this point.
Yeah, I think it's the same. And we released a 2-hour episode. This week we're cutting it up and we're going Monday to Friday. So what's the theme this week, Darcy?
Originally, we were reaching out to entertainers of the year, but a couple things. One, we quickly realized that as we were gathering notes for some of the interviews, that most of the entertainers of the year are in other categories as well, which made it a little interesting. And on top of that, the Hurricane Fiona that ripped through the East Coast and just destroyed everything.
When was that? Was that recent?
Yeah, it was maybe you were asleep.
Yeah, I think I got a nap.
That was when I was doing interviews, and then I woke you up right when the power came back on.
When did the hurricane happen? While you were sleeping.
Yes. So that kind of put a little bit of a pause on some of the little spree of interviews that I was doing for the East, but we do have another set of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And as you and I had discussed, we figured instead of releasing another 2-hour episode, maybe this one would break up a little bit. And with everybody doing cleanup or resting and recovering a little bit from all of the cleanup and devastation that happened in the region, we thought maybe it might be a little bit of a distraction for people, some extra entertainment content.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's when I listen to podcasts the most, is if I'm out cleaning brush or burning or doing laundry, dishes, all of the fun stuff that everyone fell behind on when they had no power for the better part or more than a week in some cases.
Yeah, so I got friends that still have no power. They don't think it's coming back till Tuesday, so they'll be. It's almost 10 days now, so they're going to be like almost 2 weeks before they get power back.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Yeah, that would stink. And believe it or not, this was not recorded during the hurricane. It was just really windy outside. Here's Willie Stratton.
Yeah, the reason we wanted to have you on, like I said, we were reaching out to some of the nominees for Music Nova Scotia just to kind of get little intros to some people. Some of our audience doesn't know all of the performers, and we tend to talk about everybody as they're getting the awards and stuff too. So I want to give a little introduction to who Willie Stratton is. I did do a little bit of research. I was familiar with you a bit from last year. I'd been talking with Sherry Jones there at Music Week, and she was talking about you a little bit.
Oh, sweet.
So, we didn't get a chance to meet up there, but when I was talking with some of the other guys in the previous interviews there, a couple of them knew you, so I got Andre to give a little reach out to you there. He's been He's been on a couple times now, actually.
Awesome.
So, I know one thing that really stuck out to me, and I don't normally have a funky hat on, but you tend to have quite the wardrobe when you perform too. Yeah. And it seems to tie into a few other things that I wanted to get into, but one question specifically, the big wide brim hat that you had on a lot last year. Does Aquaculture still have that?
Yes. Yeah, he's now the owner of that particular crown.
Yeah, because he took it for the African Funk video. I knew that. Yeah. And then I saw a thing that he was not planning on giving it back. So I was curious if you ever... Yeah, no, it's his hat now.
I kind of like that, it's like the wardrobe can kind of goes on its own journey,
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's a living thing in a way.
That was one thing I listened to. You were on Mike Ryan's podcast not long ago, too. Yeah, I was listening to that, and when you guys were getting talking, and some of the research I was doing, something that came up, like besides the hat thing and some of the wardrobe choices, I know there was a couple articles that I read actually about you talking about different types of old microphones.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that some of the articles were saying that you were looking for different sounds and stuff over the years. So you started quite young, like around 11, 12 or something, playing guitar?
Yep. Yeah, I was 12. I bought my first guitar. And, and that was pretty much it. I was just like, got really obsessed with it. I think sometimes around that age when something hits you, that's kind of, sometimes it'll stick, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
But, and then, since then, I mean, you know, it's like, I like a lot of different types of music.
Yeah.
And, for me, it's like trying to figure out a way to really figure out what I like about each type of music and bring that into my own music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing too, that besides being down for the Entertainer of the Year, which was the reason I reached out to you in the first place, you're down for Americana Bluegrass Recording of the Year. But I've also seen you list it. Actually, I think it was Discogs. I went in looking there, just some of your back catalog. And under the genre category, they had you list. I have to actually look at my notes for this. You're listed as rock, folk, world, country.
Yeah.
And then I see then you're under Americana Bluegrass for the awards.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's the
thing. It's like I find, like, for example, rock, folk, blues, country. I mean, to me, it's like there's so much crossover there anyway. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, for example, you know, Achy Breaky Heart, when it came out, enraged some hardcore country fans because they thought that it wasn't
country enough.
It was rock and roll. But we look at that now, and that's definitely country. No one would say it wasn't country.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then, you know, the same thing with like Bob Dylan. He's folk, but he's also rock and roll. Yeah. And he's done some country stuff too, you know. And
well, even like a Bon Jovi.
Much crossover. What's that?
Bon Jovi would be a good one that was a rocker all through the 80s, and by the end of the 90s, he's country.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Really. Yeah.
And it's really, it's such a subtle difference, you know? Like, I think if you were coming from outside of like a Western music perspective, it would all look the same anyway, really.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
We're just so in it that it's like, you know,
we see the nuance because we're familiar.
Seem bigger than they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your own music now, it was 2011, 2012 when you released your first recording. Is that around the right time?
Yep.
And you had been going to NSCAD and you get Bachelor of Arts at SMU. And so like, you're obviously looking at going into the arts.
Yeah. I never finished either of those degrees.
Okay.
But
and you're still, you've got the two hustles. You've got your music career and you've got your hairdresser.
Yeah.
Barber.
Yeah.
Cool. And so that was one thing I was going to ask you too, that as you started, I wouldn't necessarily call you trad or anything, but I mean, maybe the bluegrass and stuff, like you started a more traditional type sound.
Yeah.
And then as you progressed, you can see some of the different, you can kind of see where you were looking for different sounds. And like, I don't know a lot about the microphone piece, but you can tell that you were experimenting and working in with maybe some of the Halifax indie rock people, maybe a little bit for musicians and everything. There's a little bit of a different influence there. But
big time. That was a big influence for sure. Yeah.
What was the big difference? Like, I think around, you had one song that was quite popular online there back years ago.
Back in the day.
Oh no. Yeah. Even back before then. And then it seemed like there's a little bit of a lull and then you're back and you're getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that some of it is some of the different music industry people that you started connecting with that were helping promote you a little bit, but there was a different sound there too. So what was the biggest difference for the sound in the little, like, it's not a large gap as far as the discography, you can barely tell that but there's a little, maybe a couple years there where something seems to have happened where you had a little renewed push.
Totally. No, I totally agree. I think it's just like, you know, when I started out, I kind of hit the ground running, and it was a time when like there was a lot of cool music stuff going on in Halifax at the time, and it was like there's a bunch of other artists doing wicked stuff at the time, and it was like it's kind of before Halifax. You know, it was kind of a different place back 10 years ago. Like, it was
absolutely.
like, you know, you could rent a room for $300 a month, and like it was like, that's a good environment for artists, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And like,
absolutely.
and Pop Explosion was like probably at its peak, I would say, at that time. And then like, you know, I guess other people would argue that, but like, you know, it's like, it was just like a very supportive time. And then like, you know, I was like, just kind of, the timing was right and people were liking what I was doing when I started out. And then, and like at the time too, I mean, like the indie folk thing was like kind of big, you know what I mean? It's like, that happened to be the sound that I wanted to get into. And then it was like that sort of sound kind of faded away, and then Halifax kind of started changing. And then, you know, at that time too, I was starting to ask myself what kind of, you know, it was like I'd started out and I was writing and I like what I was writing, but like I knew that what I was influenced by at that time was like, you know, Fleet Foxes and like, you know, that kind of like indie stuff, which I liked, but I wanted to get like more of like, I wanted to investigate more like what is folk really? Like I found I was always saying like I was a folk musician, but what does that mean? And you know, that got me to like looking into the archives and stuff and like trying to learn more about like folk from around here. And you know, and then I also would, you know, went down a big path of like country and like realizing how much country comes from Nova Scotia. And then of course, you know, like being a part of the Gordy Sampson song camp really got me into like understanding the more contemporary country stuff and the existing connection that Nova Scotia had with Nashville in that sense too. And I found like it just made me kind of abandon that sound that I started with to some degree, you know, because it's like I didn't feel like it had anything to do with my culture really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So and like, but like some people were like upset by that, you know, but it's like, and like I get it, you know, I guess. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's like I was 18, you know what I mean? And it's like I just wanted to do what was cool, and then it's like I feel like now, you know, and like as well, like I was just touring a lot, wanted to just play shows. Then I kind of took a break from music, got into doing hair and stuff, and then but it's like now I just feel like I know what I want to do and create. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
So was the Grease Coast term yours? Because I know Andre said the Grease Coast rock and roll on some of his old promo stuff. So who came up with Grease Coast? Because that would have been around the same era that you were both using the term. Maybe he might have been a little later. That's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought of that. Yeah. I think I was going to originally call it like Hawaiian pizza or something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, it's kind of dumb. And then I was just thinking about pizza, and I was like, Grease Coast.
Yeah, we're giving you credit then. I like that.
It was like a decision in like
split second and just
posting it to go on Spotify.
Yeah, fair enough. And so are you from Halifax, like born and raised?
Yeah, well, I was born in New Glasgow, and then we lived in Sackville, and then I was kind of raised in Bedford as well.
No, I didn't. I'm
around HRM.
I'm born and raised in Glasgow, and I'm in Glasgow right now. So
sweet.
Yeah, we possibly know some of the same people then.
I was very young when we moved from New Glasgow. But
okay, fair enough.
I was born at the Aberdeen.
There you go. So when you released Drugstore Dreamin', which is what everything's big for you this year, because that's your new album and that's what you would have promoted. You had people behind you helping you promote this one too, and you had a couple singles that came off of it.
Yeah.
Now, one question I had with the singles that you had, Caroline's the newer one, and did you have two singles before that off this album, or just the one?
Yeah, there was Way She Holds Me was the first one, then Need Your Love.
Yeah, so those are the two songs.
Caroline.
So the Need Your Love, I don't remember hearing it pushed out. Like, I don't listen to a lot of like country radio or anything, so I don't know if that's where they're playing it. So like I maybe just didn't hear it. But that has more of a, maybe not rockabilly, but it's in a more upbeat. Yeah. And like I can see
old school rock and roll.
Yeah, and I can see where a lot of people that are covering you in articles and stuff are making Elvis comparisons. So I mean, between the wardrobe on stage and the genres that you're covering, obviously there's comparisons there. But I I found it kind of curious. Like I said, I know of you through some other people in the music industry, and I've seen some of what you're performing. And it seems like your stage presence would give off more of that upbeat, swinging rock sound.
Yeah.
But your radio and marketing presence seems to be more, not contemporary, but maybe a lighter sound, and that your slower, lighter melodies. So there's no marketing decision behind that, is there?
No, I think it just comes down to like what works. You know, it's like when I'm playing a show, like I never want to play a mellow show, really. You know
that's what I was going to say, is that I listen to you on the radio or like Spotify, and the songs that I'm getting thrown at me are the ones that have the bigger hits, the more plays, and they are your slower songs. And I can see that they're popular. Yeah. But I also can, when I am around you physically or see your presence on stage, you can feel the vibe of that there's an energy there, and you can hear it on every other track. It just doesn't seem that those are the ones that are pushed out to radio. So you're kind of getting a different feel so the live show, Willie, might not be what people are expecting just on the radio, but they can expect a good time. It's a good rock show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. To me, it's just like live and recorded is just such a different thing. I mean, a lot of that, like, I find with Spotify too, there's no control over it. You know what I mean? It's like when we put out the album, it's like Chasing Rabbits was the #1 song on it for a long time. And it's like, I didn't expect that. You know what I mean? That was, like, we just kind of tacked that on at the end. And it's like, I find it's interesting because it's like, that's what people want. But like, I find too, like, I'm happy with, you know, it's like when, you know, people aren't listening to those songs at the volume that they're listening to the music when they're at the show.
Yeah, that's
you know what
true.
I mean? And it's like, it's a different setting. Like, I imagine when people are listening to Chasing Rabbits, they're probably like, I don't know, driving in their car, thinking about all their regrets in life or something. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? But it's like, you know, at a show, like, I don't want to like bring that vibe, you know? Right. But I will play that song. Like we played that song at the marquee for the release, and that was awesome. You know what I mean? So it's like, I find it's just, I don't know. I kind of look at it as two different things, and they're obviously like the same songs we play live. Yeah. On the record, it's just,
and they do fit together. Like on the record, it almost has like an ebb and flow to listen, because the way they're sequenced, it's almost you're going up and down a little bit, but not anything too staggering where you're jolted out of a listening experience. Listen to the full album.
Right.
But I was just curious about that, because it did seem like, not at a huge level, but it almost seems like you're marketed one way as far as go listen to them here. But then your live show seems to almost have a different thing, even though they obviously relate. And the Elvis comparison works again there too, because he also was both sides of that coin.
Yeah. I enjoy the differences, you know what I mean? It's like I think for a while I wanted everything I played live to sound exactly like the record, or like the record sound exactly the way the show was. But then I find that only led to frustration, and like, you know, it's like you can be sometimes, you know, it's like we'll play a crazy show and you listen back and like you wouldn't necessarily want to have that be the record. You know what I mean? Like, you know, because things happen in a live situation, like, you know, you hit a wrong chord or like whatever, but it's about that energy.
Yeah, for sure.
I find in a recording, it's like, it's a fully different mindset for me, you know?
Yeah, it's a completely different environment when you're sitting down, so you're kind of influenced by the vibe and atmosphere as you're actually performing too. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because when I'm writing them, you know, it's like I'm alone at home, and it's a pretty, you know, intimate setting usually, and like, but it's like it kind of takes its own. I find like the recording and the live performance, it's like they just it's its own thing, I guess. But that's something I enjoy, like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, where this past year that the album was already recorded, so when you were performing and supporting that, Is it the same musicians doing the live performance that you had on the album, or did you have to swap out some studio musicians for some live hires? Or
Yeah. Nobody on the recordings is in the live band.
okay,
And yeah, the recording band is like a mix of like people from Toronto, people from around here, people from but some of it was done in Nashville.
oh cool,
So it's just like it's a total mix.
yeah,
But that was exciting too, because it's like it just allowed the songs to kind of be what they wanted to be, you know?
yeah, absolutely,
And like, because I mean, it's like I love my band that I play live with, but it's like it's easy sometimes if you have a song that doesn't have a recording. It sort of like comes to be something with the band, but that might not even resemble the original vision, you know,
Yeah.
or what you know, it's like I find with the live band, like if we're working something out, we'll get some cool sounds going, but it might not really be like in response to what the lyrics are saying.
sure,
You know, it's more like, oh, this is a cool groove, which is like, that's the way I want live music to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, whereas like we're a little more selective when it comes to like the recording, I guess. Just like, I mean, it's still selective in the live situation too. You know,
but you
it's
have more of a vision going into songwriting versus performing.
Yeah,
and the
for sure.
performing's the feel and the
Yeah.
vibe between the musicians, and the
Yeah.
recording you're going into.
Totally.
That, like, I came up with an idea and I kind of have an idea what it's going to look like, so I need to start putting the
Yeah.
pieces together. So yeah, I can
Yeah.
understand that. Like even something as small as the podcast, it's only me and my brother, but we've never hit any big issues, but occasionally there's some things where you go off on your own and it's like, oh, this is what I said I was going to do. And the other
Yeah.
person thinks, oh, I thought you meant this. And it just looks
Yeah.
different because you visualize it different internally, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, good luck with your award nominations, but what is the,
Thanks, man.
you're heading off to Ontario for some tour dates soon?
Yeah. Doing the Festival of Small Halls, which is all kind of, I think, all around the Ottawa area. I'm
Mhm.
playing in Elgin and Manawatchin. I'm really excited. And those are solo shows, which will be fun too.
That's awesome. And then you'll be back in time for Music Week, I'm assuming. You'll be in Sydney in November?
Yeah. I'm
All
really
right.
excited for that. It's
And
going to be
what-
fun to do it in Sydney.
Oh yeah, it sounds like well, same as every year. Everyone's going, but
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
feel a little bit more because I've been doing this for a year and I know a bunch of yous now. So I mean, it's a
Yeah.
little different feeling this year.
Yeah.
So what's your what big things do you have planned coming up? Like, I mean, obviously, Music Week is for a lot of Nova Scotia musicians where you're promoting what you just did and getting ready to announce new stuff. But do you have any more tour dates coming up or any new recordings in the works?
Yeah, I mean, I'm like working on new songs right now.
Mhm.
That's kind of where a lot of my focus is going. And then like we've got tour dates for like next summer. Just because like everything's kind of backlogged right now, you know.
Yeah.
It's like if you didn't have a tour that was booked and then canceled, you weren't really touring this summer, and then you know what I mean. It's like everything's kind of backed up. But I think like, you know, by like next summer we've got a bunch of cool dates that I'm excited for, and then like, you know, but yeah, I mean, all I'm focusing on right now too is just like getting new songs on the go.
Perfect. And
Yeah, which I'm excited for.
any performances scheduled for Sydney the week of Music Week, or you?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
we're playing
okay.
at the Old Triangle on the Thursday.
All right, cool. I'll have to check
Yeah.
that out. I don't
Hitting the
know.
ground running.
I know four of the people we interviewed in the rock recording episode are playing back to back on that Thursday night. But
Oh, sweet.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
the
have to-
Thursday is like pretty crazy. There's a lot of good
It's
stuff
a-
on the go.
yeah. Like I didn't look every single year, but
Yeah.
I don't remember Thursday being such a big kickoff for so many.
No, same.
So many bands.
But I
It's-
like that. I think it's cool. Like, may as well, like, you know,
hear some
get down
people
to
and
it.
get the feeling right away, and then you can
Yeah.
go do your meetings and workshops and
Yeah.
showcases. And you didn't feel. I did feel that last year running around that by the time I was ready to go see performances, I felt like I already missed too many
yeah.
because there was
yeah.
just so much going on.
And that's
so,
why I'm
yeah.
excited to, like, have the Saturday night to go watch stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, it's like, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like after Thursday, I'm just hanging, which is awesome.
Yeah. No, it should be a really good vibe. Crossing my fingers. We've
Awesome.
Still got a few weeks to get there. Well,
Yeah.
I know you're quite busy there, and we got a few more that we're scheduling here. So I do want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
Hopefully, come November, we run into each other somewhere. Maybe that Saturday night we'll
Absolutely.
catch Andre together.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
All right.
I'll probably be there. All
Thanks
right, man.
again. See ya. Bye.
Thank you.
And there you go. If you guys want to follow us, we're available many locations. Not very busy in every location, but we're available. And you can find us in the Linktree link down in the show notes or wherever you're watching this or listening to this. If you go below it, there's words. The words will be there, and you can click on the thing, and it'll take you to the place.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe on YouTube or your favorite
Smash
podcast,
the like
app.
button. Subscribe.
Yes.
Hit the bell.
Exactly.
Ding.
And we do not know what the next one's going to be after this series, so definitely subscribe so you can keep track of it.
Yes. And let us know if you think we should do something different.
Let us know if you find out what we're doing next.
When you find out, let us know so we are in the loop. Anyway, thanks for listening. It's a busy week, and we'll catch you either tomorrow or in a couple weeks or on Monday, depending on what day you listen to this episode, because we're honestly recording the outro and just copy and pasting it all through the week. Keep rocking.
Bye again.
I've been holding it in, I've been holding it out. Been biting my tongue inside of my mouth. I know it ain't proper, I know it ain't right for a girl like you to stay out all night. My heart don't beat, the rattles and hums. Tell your mama and your sister that I'm gonna be your mister, alright. Your daddy thinks that I ain't no good. He don't need no trash in his neighborhood. His inclination, it ain't wrong. Girls on bikes, they have a lot of more fun. Got a leather jacket, you never take off. I tell your daddy and your cousin time to get your motor running, come on. Wrap your legs around me, baby. Come a whole lot tight. We're gonna go for a ride. Shine a tail light on this old town. Leave it all behind. 'Cause I need your love. I need your love, baby. I need your love tonight. Say the Lord above died for our sins. Well, he signed a check, babe. I want to cash it in. St. Peter says at the pearly gates, then on this list, son, you're in the wrong place. But thanks to the wine, I head downstairs. Just tell the saints and the preachers that I found another teacher, all right. Wrap your legs around me, baby. Come hold on tight. Gonna go for a ride. Shine a